When Joe burst into the smartphone store, waving his phone like a live grenade over his warped selfies, I never imagined a quick fix would spark a life-altering moment. It was another routine day behind the counter. Customers trickled in with their usual woes: new phone setups, glitchy apps, or devices that refused to power on. I'd been at this gig long enough to handle anything, from transferring contacts to coaxing life back into a bricked phone. The work suited me. There was a quiet thrill in unraveling tech tangles and sending folks off with a working device. Their stress swapped for relief. Then Joe stormed through the door. He looked mid-40s, maybe pushing 50, with graying strands spilling across his forehead, like he'd been raking his hands through them. His shirt hung untucked, his tie slung loose like an afterthought. He had the air of a man unraveling, knuckles white as he gripped his phone. "You need to give me a new one," he yelled, thrusting the device at me. "This thing you sold me last week, it's busted. The camera's screwing up every photo, and I need a decent shot now." I kept my cool, sensing something deeper in his frenzy. "Let's see what's up," I said, reaching for the phone. He shoved it into my hands, nearly fumbling it. "Look at this." His voice cracked, breathless. "Every picture's trashed." I tapped into the gallery. His selfie stared back, forehead stretched like taffy, eyes ballooned into cartoonish orbs. Funhouse mirrors had nothing on these. What hit me harder was the sheer volume. Dozens of shots, all warped the same way. I said, keeping my tone even. "Looks like a filter's on." Joe's face twisted, disbelief flaring. "No way! I didn't touch anything. They were fine when I took them. Fix it." His bravado flickered, edged with a plea. "Let me dig into the settings," I said, stepping to the counter. He nodded fast, fingers drumming a nervous rhythm, eyes darting like he expected a miracle from thin air. "Please, just make it right," he muttered, softer now, almost defeated. I scrolled through the camera options. Sure enough, a heavy filter was distorting everything. Joe hovered, shifting his weight, his tension thick enough to touch. "Sir," I said gently, "it's just the filter. The phone's fine." "But it's digital," he snapped, grasping at straws. "Can't you undo it? I need this photo perfect." His hands trembled, and I saw it then. This wasn't about a bad pic. "The thing is," I explained, "these shots are too warped to restore. Software could guess, but it'd be a fake version of you. Better to show the real deal." Joe deflated, shoulders sagging like the fight had drained out of him. His voice dropped to a whisper. "It's for a dating site." He stared at the floor, a man bearing a fragile hope. It clicked. This was his shot at connection, and every warped image had chipped away at it. I couldn't let him walk out crushed. "Let's reset the camera," I offered. "We'll take fresh ones." He nodded, still taut, unsure. I pointed to a plain wall. "Neutral backdrop," I said, aiming for calm. As I toggled off the filter and double-checked the settings, I glanced at him. "Relax and smile when you're ready." His first attempt was shaky, a tight-lipped grimace. I snapped a few, showed him. Normal forehead, normal eyes. His jaw softened. "Let's do more," I said. "Give you options." This time, his smile crept wider, genuine. Click after click, his shoulders loosened. When I handed him the phone, he studied the screen, then broke into a grin that lit the room. "These are perfect," he exhaled, a shaky laugh escaping. "You saved me. Name's Joe, by the way." "Alex," I replied, mirroring his smile. "You're set for that profile now." He chuckled, lighter than when he'd crashed in. "If this works, you're my best man," he teased, half serious. I laughed. "A thank you's plenty." Joe left with a spring in his step, clutching his phone like a lifeline reborn. 8 months blurred by, a parade of screens and strangers blending into the grind. Joe faded into that haze, until a quiet afternoon jolted me back. A woman approached the counter, her smile warm, her presence steady. "You Alex?" she asked. "Yeah, that's me," I said, puzzled. She pulled an envelope from her bag and slid it over. "My husband wanted you to have this." Before I could ask, she turned and slipped out. I tore it open. A thank you card nestled inside, and a photo fluttered onto the counter. There was Joe, beaming, relaxed, his arm around the woman who'd just left, his wife. The card read, "Thank you for helping me find the love of my life." I stared at the image, a grin tugging at me. A glitchy camera, a frantic fix, and somehow It stitched two lives together. Small moves, big echoes,